Good day, people. Today we have something interesting in the house. Today we are going to create a tic-tac-toe game in Blazor. Well, I am using Visual Studio 2022. You can use Visual Studio Code, either is fine. Whichever applications or IDE you are using, select Next, select New, then select Blazor Web Assembly App. Click on Next, leave the settings to default, and click Continue. This is where you give the name of the application, which is tic-tac-toe game in our scenario. Now leave the location to the default and click on create. What this does, it will create a default Blazor WebAssembly application for you, and it has. Alright, now let's see if this application runs or not. Let me run this application, and it's compiling the code, loading the application, and voila, you have the application running. Okay, now there is another way. So usually what I do, I run the .NET watch. What it does, every time you make changes in HTML and CSS, it reruns the application in the browser rather than you manually doing it. So, and in order to do that, all you have to do, get the path of the root directory, cd to that root directory, and run the command called .NET watch run. Watch what happens. Now it's taking control of the browser and it does the magic. We don't have to worry about anything. Alright, what do we need? We need a component to have our application running on, or we need a new component where we are going to write our HTML code, HTML and C sharp. And for that, just select a razor component, give it a name. Let's call it a board because this is the board of the game, right? Click on create. It has created the component. Now, what do we need in this component? Tic-tac-toe game. The game is divided into 9 different sections, right? 9 different boxes, if you will. And each row has 3 boxes, and each row, that means each row has 3 columns, and there are 3 different rows of that size. So for that, what we need one div. The first div is the outer container, right? Now this is where all the 9 boxes are going to reside. So let's create the first div, and inside that div we are now going to divide the page into 9 different sections. And how do we do that? Have 2 for loops. First for loop, integer row is equal to 0, then row less than 3, then row plus plus. Now that we have created 3 rows, let's create 3 columns for each of those rows. So integer column is equal to 0, column less than 3, and column plus plus. Now inside both of this for loop, we are going to add the div, which will be created 9 times. Okay, now let's give some CSS classes name. Since this div represent itself, let's give the name cell. And outer div, let's give the name container. Would sound nice. Okay, now let me also align this code. Okay, now that we have code is ready, we need to call this component at the beginning. So for that, remove all this code from, go to index.razor, remove all the unnecessary code, and call our newly added component. So what it does, every time application runs, rather than running that all code, it will now run our component, which you can see this is now running. Since we don't have anything, it's not showing anything. What do we need next? We need CSS, right? So click add new file, select CSS. While naming, you have to give the name of the razor file followed by the razor syntax followed by the CSS. What it does, it creates a component specific CSS which is isolated just for that component. So this CSS will represent the board component. Okay, what do we need in our board razor? First we had container. Okay, so let's create a class for container dot container. So a container, let's first give height and width. So height, I'm giving, let's call it 31 rem. Sound good? So what rem means, each rem represent the font size of the root element. So whatever the root element of HTML component is or HTML tag is, that is 31 times of that size will be our container's height. So in this case, by default, I guess HTML has 16 pixels. So 16 into 31, that would be the size of our entire component, right? So that's height. Now let's give width. Let's keep the width same as height. So 31 rem sound good. Once you have height and width given, now we want to divide the page into 9 sections, which is a grid. So for that we need to use a property called grid. And since we're creating 3 rows, so that would be grid dot template, if I'm not wrong, and we are going to create rows, 3 rows. So 3, and each row will have, let's take 10 rem. So size of 10 rem, right? Then we need to create a column, 3 columns for each row. So again, select grid template columns and repeat that for 3 times and give size of 10 rem. And now we need to also give the gap between each of the column, right? So let's give the gap of 5 pixels should do it, I guess. All right, that we have nothing on the screen because we are yet to create a cell. So go ahead and create that. The height and width for the cell would be the parent height and width. So just say 100%. That will take parent's height and width. Then let's give some color. So background. For now, let's give green because I want to see that color on the screen. Okay, still nothing is there. What are we missing here? Let me see. Let's increase the size of the rem because I have the feeling it might not fit inside. No, that's not it. Something else is playing around here. Okay, let me stop .NET Watch and let me see if manually running will do something for us. Oh, I don't know what's problem with .NET Watch, but it's technically running if I manually run it. Now if I stop this manual running and run the .NET Watch again, it might reflect the changes. So most probably I have seen this in the Blazor. There's a cache problem loading while loading the page. So you have to clean the cache and run it again. It shows up, and technically .NET Watch is not reflecting that. That's why I had to manually stop it and run it. But yeah, we have the board ready. Beautiful. Besides the board, what do we need? We need the click action. Every time you click on the cell, something's supposed to happen, right? This takes us to the part where the presentation logic or C# logic comes in. Okay, let's go ahead and add the class code behind, if you will. Empty class, like again, while naming it, give the name of the component, then followed by razor, followed by CS. So it will create the C# class beneath the component. So this C# class is nothing but the partial class of the component. Just go ahead and add the word partial, and there you go. Simple. Okay, so all of our C# logic are going to go inside this class. Okay, what do we need? We need to first represent this board programmatically. So every time user clicks, start playing the game, X and O's X and O supposed to be stored somewhere. So that variable we need. Let's add one region. Let's call it variables tools. Let's say game tools. Okay, to represent board programmatically, we need character array. So let's go ahead and 2D character array because 3 rows with 3 columns. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is first row. Same way we are gonna have second and third row. Second row and third row. Okay, now that we have created the board, we need to every time you click on cell, something's supposed to happen. So we need on click event here. So on click let's call it make move method, and inside this method we are going to pass the row and the column. Now let's go ahead and create the same method here in code behind private. Let's return a task and make move. So this would be async integer row, because we were passing two parameters, right? Integer row and integer column. So what is the logic behind the parameters? You can click on any cell, right? So that's how when we pass a row and column number as a parameter, that's how method knows which cell on the UI has been clicked. We also need a character or symbol to represent X and O's, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Here let me add H5, and this will represent the character. So here, let's keep it simple for now. Say character player, whichever player is, and let's give it X. So every time user clicks on the board, we are going to replace with this character. So row comma column is equal to player, and just show this player in here inside h5. So go ahead and say player, add that player. Okay, let's see if something happens or we get some exception. Oh, now you can see XXX on XXX on every single cell, but what we want, when you click on the cell, you're supposed to show the X. So rather than showing player, we are now going to show when you click on the method, we are updating the board. So what we are going to do, we are just going to show that board here. So that cell here, every time you click on the cell is going to get update, and we are just showing referencing same cell to show it on the UI. Now let's see how that looks. Getting exception. Let's see what exception says. Index out of bounds. So that may be because of this. Let me do something here. Integer I will hold the value of row. Integer j will hold the value of column, and then we are here going to show I and j rather than showing row and column. Let's see if this solves the issue. It did not. So let me also pass same I and j from here as well. Build it again, run that again. Okay, now it works. As you can see, now every time I'm clicking somewhere, it's updating the value of X. Okay, now let's give some CSS to this character so it would look better than whatever it is looking, however it is looking now. Okay, so for that we need to add a CSS class. Let's call it symbol, since it is a symbol. Okay, sorry. Okay, we need to align the symbol in the center, so that would be text align center. We also need to align content in the center, so this will align vertically since we are using the grid. And let's give some font family, font size, Roboto will do it, or even Arial will do it. Then give some font size. Let's call it 700. Oh, sorry, font size. Let's say, or do we want to assign to the medium? Let's see how that looks. Okay, now the font size has not updated. We need to give the font weight as well. Let's give the font weight 700 will do it, and for color, so let's give color to be white. Okay, now it is white. Let's give the size to the 3 times or 2 times of REM. Even that will look better. Okay, now it's looking better. So let's give it 5 times of REM. Okay, now we are talking. 7 REM. Okay, now we are talking. Okay, this is look good. One time it will be the turn of X, and the next time it will be turn of O. So let's bring the character O into the picture. This will be fairly easy to do. Once we update the board with the symbol, let's say symbol was X, okay? Now the next term will be O's. So the next time the player would be, if current player was, let's say, X, then the next turn would be O's, else it will be X's. I hope this works. X, oh, there you go. XO, XO, XO. All right. Next, what we need to see, who won the game. We need to see if person won the game or not. And I guess there are only 9 combination. So let's just code that out. Okay, for that, we need to create a variable to store winning combination. So that would be, let's create a list of integer. I'll explain you that in a minute. What does this entire data structure mean? Winning combos equal to, let's call it new. Okay, now how many winning combination do we have? In order to win tic-tac-toe, there are only 8 possible winning combination. So 0 0, that means first cell, 0 1 second cell, and 0 2 the third cell. That's one winning combination. Same way, let's have all 3 rows first, and then we will take care of the columns and the diagonals. Okay, so that now second row would be 1 0 1 0 1 1 and 1 2. The third row would be 2 0 2 2 1 and 2 2. Let's first add these values. So that would be new list of integer and new integer, that would be 0 and 1. Okay, so that is why this data structure, because each cell represents by row and column, that's why integer array. And which is, and then there are 3 different cells, that's why those are in the list, and that list is part of all the winning combinations. So list of cell numbers, that's how. Okay, now again new integer, then second value is 0 0 and 1, and last one would be new integer 0 and 2. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it 2 more times. The second is 1 and 0, second row, so 1 and 0, 1 and 1 and 1 and 2. The third row 2 1, sorry, 2 0, so this would be also 0 0, my bad, 2 0 2 1 and 2 2. So that's rows. Then we have 3 columns as well, right? So column you can see here only, this is the first column, second column, third column. So just copy this, paste it. The first column is 0 0, then 1 0, then 1 0, and then last one is 2 0. Okay, then 0 1, then 1 1, this is correct, and 2 1. Then last is 0 2, 1 2, and last one is 2 2. Okay, and the diagonals as well, right? So 0 0 1 1 2 2, that how, and 0 2 1 1 and 2 0, that's how. So let's add those two as well. So that would be 0 0 and 1 1 and 2 2. Okay, and 0 2 and 1 1 and 2 0. All right, so we have our winning combination in the house. Let's use this to compare and see at the end if someone has won the game or the game has ended into tie. Okay, so we are back to make move method. Here we are going to loop through each value of the winning combination. Okay, now so winning combination holds these three values, right? Okay, now fetch value from each of the cell. So for that we are storing value of the each of the cell in integer array. So let's call it first cell and say item from the first row. Okay, or item from the first item technically. Okay, same way we need to have the value of each of this cell. So let's call it second and let's call it third. So what we are doing here is item of 1 and item of 2. So what we are doing here is this will store 0 and 1, sorry, 0 and 0. This will store 0 and 1, and at the end this will simply store 0 and 2. So we are storing the value of each of the cell while iterating through each of the item in this list. Okay, once we have the value of the cells, what we need to check, we need to first validate that each cell at least has the value, should not be empty. If it is empty, then simply return, right? So if first so inside a board, the first or yeah, the first cell, since we are updating the board, so first zeroth item, so that means the zeroth cell, comma first cell, so 0 and 1. So if board of this cell, that means first cell, is double equal to empty, or same way we are going to follow this, or second cell or third cell. So we want to make sure each cell has the value. If any of this is empty, then continue. Okay, else, that means it has a symbol either X or O. So I'm just going to copy this. If board of first is double equal to second, and the second and the second, so what I'm checking here, if the first cell value, if first cell as X is equal to the second X, so this is comparing to the second X, and the second X is double equal to the third one. So let me hold on, do something like this below, so it will make more sense. Okay, so the first cell is equal to second cell and the second cell equal to third cell. If that is met, that means at least O or X has won the game. Now if any of the player has won the game, we are going to show the message on the pop-up that player has won the game, and for that we can use simple JavaScript. And in order to use the JavaScript, just inject ijs runtime, let's call it js, and use that. Let me stop the application from running. Let's store our result into boolean variable. So js dot async, since you are expecting a boolean, and this is a confirm box, so confirm, and we are saying the player plus won. This should do it. Also say await, since it is JavaScript explicitly being called. Moment of truth, guys, moment of truth. Oh, Exception, not bad. That means we at least got into the condition. We just broke something. Confirm was undefined. Okay, maybe the C was small. Let me. There you go. Okay, so oh my god. So we are interchanging the variable and then we are updating the value. So we need to come back and show the actual winner won. Okay, so rather than showing player, so that happened because we are interchanging player symbol here. So let's just show whatever the value of the board is, and maybe that will work. So let's run this. X X bone. Beautiful. Let's refresh this. Oh, again I've made sure that X is winning. Let me make sure the O is winning. And O won. All right, nice. Now what we need to do, once any of the player has been won, we need to clear out the game or board so that next game could start, right? So let's do that. Simple. Let me come back here. Now some final touches. So technically we don't even need this boolean variable, but we are going to leave as it is. What we want to do here, we want to reset the game, right? So let's create a method for that first to reset the board. So call it private void, let's call it reset game. So all we have to do is go through each cell of the board and replace that with empty character. So integer I is equal to 0, I is less than equal to 3, and I plus plus, that is rows, that are your rows. Sorry, I made some mistake. Okay, now for integer j is equal to 0, j is less than 3, and j plus plus. Now just say board of I and j is equal to empty character. This will reset the board. Okay, and once the game has been finished, winner has been declared, reset the board. Let's see how if this works or not. Let me run this. Okay, x x and x has won. I say okay, and board has reset. Okay, now only one condition is left. The game could be result into winning, either O wins or X wins, but it could also be tie, right? So let's write the logic for that as well. So in order to write the logic for tie, I'm going to copy the same method, paste it here, and is game is board empty. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to check if there is a cell that is still empty even after game has been finished. Okay, so if there are no cells empty and game has been finished, that means no one won, right? So I'm just going to create one boolean variable here. Say result is equal to true, meaning the game was empty. But I'm gonna go through each of this cell and going to say check if my board value is double equal to empty. If it is empty, then return. So if there is an empty, that means board is not empty, so return false. Else return result. I don't even need to store the result here. Simply say return true. I don't even need this. I don't know why I created this one. And that means we don't need to store this one as well. We need to store return the boolean as well. Okay, now if the game has finished, that means once we come out of for each loop, game has been finished. We are going to check if what we are saying is board is empty. Is board is empty. Then the game is ended up in the tie. Then let's just simply show the game has been ended up into a tie. Confirm message and just say game tied. You can use beautiful CSS and everything. I will link the blog in the description where you can read how to have beautiful CSS, which will give you nice pop-up to show rather than this inbuilt pop-ups or confirm boxes. Okay, let's tie this game. Post done. Okay. Game tied, beautiful. And oh, after the game has been tied, we again has to reset the game for next. Oh, new thing just coming up. So if game was tied, then again reset the game. Now this is the final thing which was left. Here x. Oh, x won because I just added x there. Okay, let's make sure O wins this time. Okay, O wins. Now let's tie the game. We actually saw the game being tied, so we don't have to. But anyway, and game type. Beautiful. Now let me just add couple of more CSS, change some CSS here and there, and I'll show you the final version of the game. Right, I did some modification into CSS, and final version is looking like this. Let me show you how it works. So first turn is X. So let's let the X win. Beautiful. You can see the cat in the background. Now this is second turn. This is O's turn. Let the O win, and this time let's tie the game. Oh, my bad. Let me tie the game. Okay, once the game has been tied, I will link down this code down in the description. You can start playing around and do whatever you want. It's free. What I will do, I will also in next video we will create the AI version of this. Here, if you go to my website, down to the portfolio, and here under TicTacToe, you will find the version which is played by the AI. So here the AI plays the game. So we will try to generate the AI for the same game. As you can see, I'm doing nothing. Is the AI who is playing the game. Either AI please wins the game or AI ties the game, but it never loses. Next time we'll see that how to do design that with min max algorithm. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.